Hello, beautiful strangers, and welcome back to another episode of Myth. When last we left off, well, there's only really one big thing. One thing that I feel like is the only thing that I really can mention because there's nothing really more important of it. And, well, that was a little bit of the glimpse beyond that we got, so to speak. I'm here. I don't know how long this episode is going to be, honestly. I have no idea. And I still have my tea that I had. Well, it's a different glass because it's a different day. Yeah, it's still nice. I've been vaguely kind of lazy and didn't feel like driving to the... and I still haven't felt like driving, and I probably won't do it until like the weekend or something, driving to the specific liquor store I like going to and buying wine, because they have a large selection of wine and the staff is nice, and I like that. But it's like a 25-minute drive from where I am. Their liquor store is much closer, and I mean, hell, I can go to the grocery store and get wine. It's just I like this specific one because I'm a picky motherfucker. But anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Is it over? Yuri spoke yeah. Oh, that's a great start. Yuri spoke up in that world without sound. He returned to the real world and, well, just a little longer. Valkyrie said that. It should only take a little more time. Yuri, wait in the Village of Shadows for a new story. I plan to. Ryoko Ichi? And Kiki? Yes? Please continue with the vital guidance. And what will you do? I still have things I need to take care of. She left for that boundless space. With those parting remarks, she would no longer speak with them again. That's what Valkyrie believed, at least. The business she needed to take care of was to bring Myth to its end. The boy who traveled to that world removed from Myths dropped something. She gently placed that object in Nidiri's hands so that they could see the end. Myth, Otherworld. And the name of this chapter is Berserker's Fate. Wow. 33 Otherworld chapters. Interesting. I heard. Someone's breathing. No matter where I went, there was nothing but collapsed buildings. I searched for someone in that devastated world. And that was my reason to live. There was a whistle on the ground. I received this from Uni at some point in the story. Something about not being able to go to the amusement park without this whistle. Holding this meant that I was able to end it. The whistle indicated my success. What a shame, Odin. The existence who gave birth to me, who used me to create a place for herself in reality. A fool. A so very real world. But this world isn't real. It just seemed very real. That was all. Isn't that right? Author. The human peering down at me didn't respond. They just continued to gaze at me with an affectionate look in their eyes. And that just proved it. I continued. I can't be you. So they somehow walked through that polluted atmosphere. Their retreating figure seemed lonely, and at the same time, as though they had to come to their own, as though they had come to a resolution regarding their own foolishness. Or that's what it looked like to me. Now then, I entrusted myself to this world. There was a half-broken, scratched-up toy figure below a large, withered tree. Gundane. I spoke of its name. I held the figure up to the faint sun. The sunlight shined upon the interior of the figure, revealing a number of humans busily moving about. Tiny, tiny people. I propped that figure up on the withered tree, and then closed my eyes. The time I had remaining, a time I had no need for, I decided to reminisce about the past. I don't want to. Mato's loud voice echoed about near the crossing. Why not? Two adults stood before him. Why would I ever want to join some weird religion like that? He turned his back to them. He had nothing else to say. His parents glared up at him, and then, swoosh. They grabbed hold of Mato. His father was holding a vessel containing liquid. Hey, stop it. Mato frantically resisted. Cut it out. He shook them off and stumbled. Tap, tap, tap. Mato escaped with a desperate look on his face. He wanted to get away from his parents because he sensed their intent to kill. There was something wrong with them. They weren't right in the head. Mato kept telling himself that. The two of them were left at the crossing in silence, wearing complex expressions on their faces. Kyoko. Koichi spoke up. Kyoko's face froze. No. No. Koichi stopped her before she had a chance to run. He pinned her head down, opened her mouth, and poured the liquid from that vessel inside. No, no. Some time passed, and... Sign. Movement 1, movement, December 28th, 2016, 6:44 a.m. Black blood began to trickle out from her mouth. This was for the best. Someone had to be sacrificed. Koichi kept telling himself that this was what had to be done for everyone's sake. There was a young woman's voice. Mr. Tanabe? What's wrong with Miss Tanabe? I dislike, I don't know why, I think it's just my weebiness or something, but I dislike when honorifics aren't translated. I don't know if this is an instance of that or not, but I really, because they've used like San, I think they have at least like San Sama. Chan, have they actually? I don't remember. I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, I actually can't remember. I think they have, but maybe I'm just dumb. Yeah, I actually don't like that. I like it with the honorific translated. Dash-san, Sama, Senpai, Chan, Kun, Chama, whatever. I don't know why, because I've actually been reading I've read like 2 or 3 hours of it over the past couple of days. I didn't get to read any today, unfortunately. But it's translating. How? Fuck! I spot my finger. It's translating. God, what was? I think her title should be Son. It's just translating it as Miss. But I'm actually not sure because it could be Sama because it mentions him talking formally, and he's referring to her as Miss, but it's his adoptive parent. So I don't actually know. And I think with how honorifics work in Japanese, I think it actually fits better. It might require a bit of, language searching. I don't think it would need any translation notes. Because if you're reading a visual novel, you're already well past the point of that, really. But yeah, I think to get the proper, the proper tone of what someone is saying, I feel like that helps, and I don't like Mr. and Mrs. and so on and so forth. Anyway, enough of my weeby bitching. A girl wearing a school uniform was looking at Koichi. Did something happen? Suddenly, Koichi came up with a brilliant idea. It was Meto. Huh? Yuri Yamagami was aghast at what Koichi said. Meto did it. He killed Kyoko. No way. You're lying. All right, ding dong. Ding dong. It was a nightmare. One I'd been having over and over as soon as I got out of the hospital, unfortunately. Ding dong. It was probably Edagawa. I promised I'd go to the police department the other day. Hey, don't put text over my menu bar at the bottom. God damn it. He did seem to be earlier than expected, though. Hi. The voice wasn't one I was used to hearing. Its tone was weathered and crude. Who is this? I had to be wary after what happened with Yuki. I nervously asked before I heard from the intercom. Yuri. Yuri. I hadn't heard that in so long. Who are you? It's been a long time. Huh? A scientific fate of sorts? The voice ignored what I asked and kept talking. What are you? Honkyo, black fluids. Ring a bell, doesn't it? The man on the intercom hesitated for a moment and then said, You don't know who I am? It makes sense. Both of us has changed a lot. With that preface, the voice stated a name I never could have expected. Before I could respond, I was running to the entrance. Clink. Yuri, we need to talk. There's something I want to tell you. I have comments I can make on his appearance. Kind of reminds me of a stoner dropout. Or not dropout, burnout. There we go, that's the right word. Oh, look at that. A new menu. This is actually where I was wanting to end off last episode, but I remembered that there was the scene in between the credits, or not the credits, but the flashback, and I'll stop that, that's very annoying. The credits and the flashback and from where we started, so I didn't want to record that much longer, and Kit was unhappy. And I actually had something I had to do, but that's neither here nor there. Huh? We've got a new episode. Answer, episode 1. God, that dark text is hard to read on that dark background. Those who reached their end. That's right, motherfuckers. I lied when I would. No, I'm kidding. We are the. It's not that long. We're gonna keep going now. even if that was a very lovely cliffhanger, but there's still more. I love this track, by the way. I could feel the light. I could feel the bright white light suddenly seeping into the back of my eyelids. I grimaced. Then, I thought to myself how it was no big deal. My gaze was set on the sky. Yeah, the sky felt like it was limited to just 256 colors. So sleepy. The soft grass tickled at my earlobes. If I could still grumble like that, then I could still lie in this verdant green bed. Yes, voice acting. Typically, I would turn that off in VNs. I have a very bad habit of when, if something reads something, even if it's in another language, it's why I, in the future, even if I'd read something that's fully voiced, unlike this, I will turn off voices. And in the past, when I read something that was fully voiced, I turned off voices. I will end up reading very quickly in what a mode or anything like that. I'll just go, then I can still lie in the verdant green bed, so on and so forth, and blah, 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 blah. You know, that sort of thing. And I don't want to do that. I knew I couldn't actually do that, though. The grassland and the wind, and a presence beside me that told me otherwise. Who are you? There was an old guy wearing dirty clothes before me. His rugged face matched the unkempt beard well enough that he wouldn't look bad if not for the excessive filth. That was different from the image I had in my head. I anxiously awaited for his response. Loki. The unkempt man called himself that. Loki? Loki. Strange name. I said what was on my mind. That goes for you too. Loki looked at me for a moment, and then... Kiki. There's not a ton of voice acting, so I'm just going to keep it on for this. Why not? Have a bit of fun. That's what he said. Yeah. Guess. The other thing is I have a very bad habit of talking over the voice acting, and I'm going to try to not do that. I promise absolutely nothing, though. That will probably not, last after the end of this sentence. I agreed. The only difference between our names was Lo and Ki, after all. And fuck Loki. So, Loki-san? I can't do that high-pitched of a voice. I apologize. I got up and asked him something else. What do you want with me? You must know. Huh? Your memories have returned, right? I mean, I know I don't have a super deep voice. I've heard deeper, I've heard higher. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I cannot make my voice go that high, unfortunately. I think the highest voice I can do is probably the voice I did for CL and Tsukihime, I believe. Yeah, something like that. Your memories have returned, right? Yeah. Then let's get going. We're keeping my partner waiting. She hates waiting. Partner? Waiting? Hibiki's back. I stood up and looked in Loki's direction. Another person was there whom I recognized. Is that Hibiki-chan? I wasn't sure, so I carefully asked her. She seemed like Hibiki-chan, though, and she nodded. Wow, how nostalgic. How have you been doing, okay? Right, like I said, I promise nothing. Yeah. Hibiki-chan spoke with a tone lower than what I was used to. So this was the real her. Finished up with the introductions, then let's get going. Damn geezer. At least let us bask in the glow of our touching reunion for a moment. Well, I thought as much, but Hibiki-chan began walking through the grasslands right after he did. I had no choice but to do the same. followed behind them. The grasslands felt endless, and none of us spoke a word as we walked through them. It was a little awkward, but I expected as much. Because we weren't friends. And just as I suspected, the two of them stepped into the cave beyond the grasslands. Beyond that cave was a bunch of buildings I'd never seen before, and nothing looked familiar to me. The ceiling, the floor, the stairs. It's been so long. Loki muttered to himself as he gazed at the scenery with a nostalgic glint in his eyes. How many times has it been for you? By that, I meant how many times had he looped in this world. Loki shook his head from side to side as he smiled. No, you see, He's with the people behind this. Hibiki spoke up in place of Loki. People behind this? Asgard's people? Yes, one of the people waiting rather idly for this to end. Her words seemed sarcastic in a way. Loki seemed somewhat embarrassed. I couldn't tell if he was just trying to act like he didn't know, or if he was just dense, but it's not like I was messing around all that time. That was all he said. True. The way Hibiki-chan spoke was somewhat resigned, but I could sense a bit of exasperation from her words. It made me realize that Loki was just dense. We reached a large bridge after walking for a bit. It was a bridge for people to walk across. I could see a bunch of them there. Have they been waiting in vain? I was referring to the people standing on the bridge. None of the people responded to my words, although I suppose that was only natural. It's like a surreal work of art. We should learn from this. I guess. Because, in the end, it would probably end up just like them. But there's still time. A waste of time? I immediately responded. Biki-chan seemed to agree with what I said, though, as she fell silent after that. Will it really be a waste? Loki spoke up. Why do you say that? I asked him that, confused. Isn't it already over? Myth, that is. Wasn't the fact that the three of us were released from the plot proof enough from that? Two of them are still fighting for their own release. Two of them. It wasn't hard to imagine who those two were. Meto and Riri? Loki nodded. It was just as I expected. Geez, those two. Surprised you'd react like that. Why? No reason in particular. I knew what he was getting at. Riri, Meto, and myself were comrades who shared a bunch of time together. That's why you've probably found my reaction to be surprising. Let me tell you something, Loki. I've already noticed it. That's why I want them to realize it sooner rather than later, too. That's all. They had to realize that trying to escape to reality and all of that is pointless. Really? Yeah, really. I looked up at the sky as I said that. Yeah, really. Obviously that was the case. Otherwise... Hey. Biki spoke up after that. Can you tell me about Asgard? And that's kind of sudden. I've always been curious, and we can only sit here and wait, right? Let's kill some time then. That sounds good. I want to hear about it too. I was in agreement with her. That was much better than just sitting around here. These would serve as our final moments of real thought, and that discussion would likely be somewhat fitting for the end. After falling silent for a few moments, "Sure," Loki agreed. At the end of the bridge, Loki began to speak of the past as he gazed at the buildings in the distance beyond the ocean. Let me preface this by saying, all of this is real. And while it's real, well, it's up to you to decide whether it's truth or not. So, as you listen to what I have to say, you can decide on whether it's actually the truth or something that happened in reality. Not that it matters in the least to me. Just do what you please. Sorry for the long preface. Alright, so about Asgard. The year 2002 is a good starting point. I was in my third year of high school then, living with my parents, still without a care in the world. And that's why I never once thought I'd end up going to Asgard. The year 2002 was really no different from other years. I ate mochi with my family on New Year's, advanced to the next year in school in the spring, went to the beach during spring break with my friends. There was just one thing that I didn't do that year that I normally did. That was Christmas. Now, every year we typically had a Christmas party, but we didn't in 2002. We couldn't, really. Most of 2002 was the same as always, but one day, something did change. It was the beginning of November, if I recall. That was when my older sister went missing. My family searched for her throughout the rest of the year. We didn't have a bad relationship with each other. We were all really worried about her. It didn't seem like she was depressed or had particular problems interacting with people or anything. I didn't think anyone held a grudge against her either. She was just your average year college student, and her second year college student with a love for biology and Neville Shute novels. So did I ever see her again? I did. Long after that. We had grown far older by that point. It really was a long time after that. I'll leave the emotional reunion for later, though. The year 2016. The reason why such a random year holds so many memories for me was thanks to my wife. We got married in the year 2016. We were both 32 years old. It wasn't exactly common for people to get married at that age. I was a detective. My wife was a lawyer. And, as you can imagine, she was as stubborn as could be. Let me explain a bit about her. We were in the same year at college, and it was through one of my club's drinking parties that I learned about her. I didn't actually get to know much about her until after we both entered the workforce, though. As I said before, she was a lawyer, and I was a detective. So after a while, it wasn't uncommon for both of us to be working on similar cases. And that's why, when we met up again after college, we ended up frequently going out to drink, and before I realized it, I was putting an engagement ring on her finger in a white room. Things just flew by. I honestly don't remember the details too well. I do remember our wedding, but I don't remember the year our kid was born. That's why she used to get mad at me all the time. Anyway, we had a kid around the spring of 2020 or 2021. And while I don't remember his exact date of birth, I can tell you I spoiled that kid. Or maybe it was a bit different than that. It felt a bit more natural. Kind of hard to explain. It's not something you'd really understand without having a kid yourself. Anyway, life has its sweet and sour moments, but I do think I was on the luckier end of the spectrum. My kid was adorable, and my feelings for my wife didn't change much at all. Even before I had a family life of my own, I recall having a particularly enjoyable life. It wasn't until I began to live with them that I really started to appreciate that sort of thing. Yeah, I had a happy life. Perhaps that was why, when everything fell apart, I lamented and cried like I did. And actually, I think that's a good stopping point. I think that's about halfway through his story from what I remember. And, well, in it itself, it has a cliffhanger. Haha. How did everything fall apart? Huh? Why did he lament and cry like he did, I wonder? Also, the name of this is Myth Zero, interestingly enough. But, yeah. We'll learn the answer to that and more next time. I hope to see you all there.